Good evening, everyone. They are images hard to reconcile with a country that tonight stands on the verge of reaching 100,000 COVID-19 deaths. Officials in many communities are bracing for the consequences after these scenes of Americans ignoring calls for social distancing over the Memorial Day weekend. While coronavirus restrictions have been eased in many states, there is now worry a surge of infections could come in regions where large groups gathered. All of this unfolding as growing concern rises over new hotspots and worry of a second wave. Here's Miguel Almaguer.
Tonight, growing concern amid a grim milestone as the U.S. nears 100,000 COVID-related deaths. Will scenes like these fuel a new spike in infections, with many Americans choosing not to social distance amid massive holiday crowds? In St. Louis County, where health officials called these revelers reckless, there is now a 14-day self-quarantine for anyone who broke safety protocols at Lake of the Ozarks.
You see no mask here, you see no fear. We're all just embracing it.
As many defy local mandates, the number of new coronavirus cases is rising in several states as more Americans are being tested. In Arkansas, the governor says they are experiencing a dangerous second peak. In Alabama, the outlook also worsening.
80% of our deaths have taken place just in this month alone.
While the World Health Organization warns of a second peak of infections in countries where restrictions are eased too quickly, today a return to the New York Stock Exchange, where stocks soared and fewer traders were on the floor taking precautions. In nearby New Rochelle, the first community to lock down is now beginning to reopen. But from coast to coast, many are growing uneasy, fatigued by the quarantine.
Your dog can get groomed, but you can't get a haircut? I need my hair done. That's a problem.
After long holiday lines at everything from airports to hiking trails, in Los Angeles, Dodger Stadium will be used to test up to 6,000 people a day for COVID-19. Not far away at a food processing plant that makes the iconic Dodger dog, 153 employees have tested positive for the virus, the latest outbreak for an industry struggling to contain the disease.
But we don't want to keep applying Band-Aids and leaves. We want, in fact, people to be healthy because it's not just them that get infected. The fear amongst the workers, in fact, is even greater for going home and infecting their family and loved ones.
With every state worried about new infections, there remains pressure to reopen the economy. Here in California, the governor said hair salons can reopen, but not in the state's biggest counties.
Tonight, frustration, defiance, and now mounting concern. Has our nation done enough to prevent a second wave? Miguel Almaguer, NBC News, Los Angeles.
And as the death toll mounts, President Trump is firing back at those who've criticized his response after spending much of the holiday weekend tweeting insults and conspiracy theories. Our Peter Alexander is at the White House.
As the U.S. approaches a tragic milestone, 100,000 dead, President Trump tonight is defending his handling of the pandemic, casting it as a success that the number of lives lost is not in the millions. It comes as the president spent his Memorial Day weekend attending remembrances while honoring the virus's victims.
As one nation, we mourn alongside every single family that has lost loved ones.
But aside from that, the president's largely been focused elsewhere, playing 2 rounds of golf and firing off dozens of divisive tweets, amplifying posts that insult prominent Democratic women, accusing House Speaker Nancy Pelosi of having a drinking problem, and mocking former Georgia legislator Stacey Abrams about her appearance. President Trump on Memorial Day also attacking Democratic Congressman and military veteran Connor Lamb as a, quote, American fraud. And just 3 months before the Republican National Convention is set to take place in Charlotte, President Trump's threatening to move it elsewhere if North Carolina's Democratic governor is unable to guarantee that by August we will be allowed full attendance. That would mean more than 20,000 supporters shoulder to shoulder in this arena. Just last weekend, the state recorded its largest daily increase in positive COVID cases. And Governor Roy Cooper says he does not know what situation his state will be in August.
It's okay for political conventions to be political, but pandemic response cannot be.
The president also taking a swipe at his Democratic opponent, former Vice President Joe Biden, who, unlike President Trump, wore a mask to his state's Memorial Monday. President Trump sharing this tweet making fun of Biden's choice.
He's a fool, an absolute fool to talk that way.
And most stunningly from President Trump's latest tweets, falsely suggesting former Republican Congressman and Morning Joe anchor Joe Scarborough may have been personally involved in the 2001 death of one of his staffers and should be investigated. Authorities determined years ago that Lori Klafsudis died after losing consciousness from an abnormal heart rhythm that caused her to collapse and hit her head. Her death a tragic accident, but that has not stopped the president from questioning whether Scarborough got away with murder. Her widower in a letter appealing directly to Twitter's CEO. I'm asking you to intervene in this instance because the President of the United States is taking something that does not belong to him, the memory of my dead wife, and perverted it for perceived political gain, adding, "My wife deserves better," and condemning the president for repeating the debunked falsehood that Klafsudis was murdered by her boss. Scarborough's wife and co-anchor Mika Brzezinski reading from the letter this morning on MSNBC.
These conspiracy theorists, including most recently the President of the United States, continue to spread their bile and misinformation on your platform.
The president tonight saying he's read that letter, but ignores the widower's words.
Yeah, I have, but I'm sure that ultimately they want to get to the bottom of it.
In that letter, the staffer's widower urges Twitter to delete the president's tweets. Twitter has not taken them down, but tonight, for the first time, Twitter has posted fact checks beneath some of President Trump's tweets. Lester?
All right, Peter Alexander at the White House tonight. Thank you. The president's new travel ban takes effect tonight on visitors from Brazil, where more people are now dying per day from coronavirus than any other country in the world. Our Bill Neely is there.
Today, like every day, dozens of virus funerals in Rio. American Oscar Stearns was 64 and from Boston and lived here all his life. One of 800 victims in one day. Brazil now has the highest daily death toll in the world. Today, one city with a high death toll and a shattered economy ended its lockdown. Tens of thousands poured onto the streets.
The mayor of this city, who's had the virus, ordered it to open up. He doesn't support the lockdown. Across Brazil, the battle between saving the economy and saving lives is raging.
One American already in financial trouble.
I have a travel agency, and that travel agency I don't think is going to survive the next couple of months.
Like the economy, hospitals are at breaking point. People too. Brazilians looking to come to the U.S. now unwelcome.
President Trump's travel ban barring visitors to the U.S. from Brazil kicks in at midnight.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.